Alright, how you going guys? Welcome to the next video in the series for Ratcon 2021, the Warhammer 40k tournament held in Ballarat this weekend. In the last video I went through the player pack and I outlined the way that scoring is going to work for the event and some of the other details surrounding the event and gave my thoughts and opinions on those. And now in this next video I'm going to be going through the missions. So Ratcon's got its own custom missions. They're not following this standard championship missions that GW put out, which makes Ratcon a unique and different experience. So let's get stuck into those missions right now. Alright, so as we discussed in the first video, Ratcon's going to be a 5-round event. We've got custom missions for each one. I haven't read any of these yet at any capacity, so I'm going to be reading through them, and this will be my first glance. I'll probably get some shit wrong, because as a 40k player, I'm obligated to read the first half of a rule and then get pissed off about it or excited about it and then stop reading. It's how we do things. So yeah, I'll probably get some things wrong, but I'll do my best to try and get these as accurate as possible. Let's get stuck straight into the first mission. So the first thing I want to say is that Ratcon has got a Skaven style theme throughout. So you'll notice that a lot of these missions will be based around that sort of stuff. And a lot of them are also throwbacks to some of the really old school missions we used to play from like 5th, 6th and 7th edition. So there's going to be some throwbacks in there. Melbourne people will recognise some of these from the likes of Ark and other major popular events in Victoria. So I think the Ratcon boys have done a really good job of trying to merge the modern competitive 40k crowd with the old school narrative crowd. They've smashed them together. These are two communities that I think are fundamentally incompatible, but Ratcon's having a red hot go at trying to make an event that appeals to both audiences. So we'll see how it works, and I'll definitely hit you guys with some reviews and thoughts of that during the day and post-event, and let you know how I felt, and I'll be talking to people from both sides of the aisle because I fall in both. And we'll see how we go. So let's get stuck straight into the first mission. Now, this is the order in which they're sent through, and this says Mission 3-2, Plague You. Interesting. 3-1, Mission 3-1. I'm not sure if this is the order in which the missions will be played. I don't think that's not extremely clear here. But let's just get stuck into them. So the mission briefing, it's got a little bit of a narrative there. Then you've got your mission rules saying you've got objective secured. If you control an objective marker at the end of your command phase, it remains under your control unless the opponent has any models on it. So in this mission, if you move on to an objective and then fuck off, that objective will still be yours as long as you were there at the start of your command phase. So that means that your backfield objective holders can actually move forward and do stuff, provided you can insulate that backfield objective and stop your opponent from getting on it. So that'll be an interesting one. That's a rule that I almost always forget and end up having like a unit of demonettes sitting on a backfield objective the whole game when they could have been contributing to the fight. So yeah, that's one rule. Next we go into your primary objectives. So you've got a progressive take and hold. It's your very standard end of your command phase. You score 5 victory points for each of the following: control 1 or more, control 2 or more, and control more objective markers than your opponent. So it's your standard progressive take and hold primary. And then for secondaries, and I believe this is consistent throughout the whole event, is that players must select this secondary. So basically you get your 3 secondaries, but one of them has to be the mission secondary. It's not like your standard championship missions where there's a mission secondary that you can pick. In this one you must pick it, which means that armies that struggle to find good secondaries are at an advantage, and armies that have a plethora of good secondaries are at a disadvantage because they don't want to have to pick this shitty secondary one when they have all these good options. Whereas armies that don't have a lot of good options are like, well, whatever, I was probably going to pick deploy scramblers and get fuck all points anyway. So let's get into this mission. So it's at the end of your player turn. If you control the central objective, you score 3 points. So it's sort of like direct assault. However, there's a couple extra rules here. So after the plague sensor empties its contents into the battlefield, the plague slowly recedes upon the wind. If in the first battle round the central objective has a control radius of 12 inches, okay, measured from the objective, the edge of the objective, and it drops by 3 at the start of every subsequent battle round. In order to control the objective master, you must have the highest number of models inside the control radius. Objective secured models counts as double instead of using their normal rules. Okay, so basically the objective will start as a 12-inch circle, turn 1, and it'll then go to 9, 6, 3. Yeah, that's interesting. So I don't really know what much there is to say about that. You've got Aura of Filth. The noxious gas spewing from the plague sensor in the middle of the battlefield creates a cloud of plague. While a model is partially or wholly within 9 inches of the center of the battlefield, they suffer -1s to all saving throws. Okay, so this will be a really interesting mission because basically you want to be on that objective, but if you're on it more or less, from turn 2 onwards, because it becomes a 9-inch radius, if you're on it, you suffer a -1 to your saving throws, which is really spicy. It does say while a model is partially or wholly within 9 inches of the center of the battlefield. So this will be really good for units, not so much for models. So if you have a unit of Terminators, you've got one in cover, and then you string them out so that one's on the objective. Well, the one that's on the objective will be -1, but you can just take saves on the one that's in cover for a +1. So compared to a single model unit, where it can't do that, because if it's in the objective, it's in the objective. You have to take wins on it. So I'm not sure if that's intentional or if that's an oversight, but that does mean that units will be very good in this mission, and things like knights or demon princes and keepers of secrets, which I have, will struggle because if they go into that objective, they're going to get hurt. That'll be very interesting. And the objective secured models counting as twice as many models is actually, in my opinion, a bit of a debuff, because previously they would just trump everything else. One objective secured model counts as infinite people if there's no other objective secured there. So that's an interesting mission. I think that'll be interesting. So now we have the deployment type, which is, I was going to guess this, but it's table quarters. So you've got the 9-inch. So you can actually, in this, deploy in the objective, because the turn 1, it starts with a 12-inch radius, and you can deploy up to 9 inches from the center. So you can actually deploy your objective secured guys on there, and you're on there turn 1. I still think you won't score those primary points turn 1, I would assume. I'm going to double check that. It just says at the end of each player's command phase, player whose turn it is scores 5 victory points for the following. I know it does say the primary objective cannot be scored in the first battle round. So you can't score it in the first battle round, but you can be there from the start, which is interesting. Because it means you won't have to move. So if you've got Dark Angels guys, you can put them on that line, and then you just don't have to move. You just keep shooting with +1 to hit and just blasting things. So that's going to be a very spicy mission. Alright, second mission. I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure if this is the order that they will be played in, but second mission that we're going to go through is called Warpstone Stockpiles. So basically you've got this is a domination. So at the end of each player's command phase, you get 5 points for the following. Control 2 or more objective markers is worth 5 points. 3 or more is worth another 5, and then control more is worth another 5. I just want to check with that first mission, something I didn't pay attention to was how many objective markers was it. So the first mission is 5, 1 in the center of each quarter, and then 1 in the center of the battlefield. And then this one, it looks like there is 6. Hence the hold 2 for your minimum 5 points. Now you've got secondary objectives. While this mission is players must select the following, and this is at the end of the battle, score points equal to the cumulative total of warpstone tokens on the objectives you control. So at the end of the battle, score points equal to those, up to a maximum of 15. So at the start of each player turn, the controlling player must complete one of the following. Add 3 tokens to one objective on a battlefield, add 2 tokens to one objective and 1 to another, or add 3 tokens to 3 different ones. So basically you get 3 tokens that you get to place at the, the start of each player turn. You get to place 3 tokens down onto any of the objective markers, and then they'll just keep stacking up throughout the game, and then at the end of the game, each objective marker is worth however many tokens are on it. So that's interesting. When an objective reaches 7 tokens, the collective strain of the warpstone begins to destroy the objective. Roll on the meltdown table below and resolve the corresponding effect. Once this happens, the objective is no longer able to receive warpstone tokens and for the rest of the game, and does not count towards the secondary scoring. So basically, once you've got 7 tokens, the objective blows up, and that objective doesn't count towards that secondary anymore. So this is where it's tricky, because you don't want to just keep stacking them on your home objective, because then your opponent can just go, cool, I'm just going to pop you over 7, and now that objective's worth nothing. So depending on how you play it, you might want to spread them out so that none of them pop if you feel like you're going to have table control. Or if you don't feel like you're going to have table control, you want to pop the ones that they're going to control. But you don't want to stack them up if you're not going to pop them. So that'll be an interesting way to play it. One of my favourite ways to play this mission historically is to, if you go second, you see where your opponent puts theirs, and you go, okay, well that's probably the direction that they're going to want to head with their army. And as soon as they start doing that, you then stack on top of theirs and blow up their objective markers. Can be an interesting game. It's really fun and silly. It's not as competitive, but it's good. When an objective blows up, you roll on this meltdown table. So on a 1, every unit, friend or foe, within 6 inches of it suffers 3d3 mortal wounds. Fuck me. Alright. That's fucking savage. So when it reaches 7, you roll a d6. If you roll a 1, everything within 6 inches of that objective is fucked. 2 to 3, each unit, friend or foe, within 6 inches reduces their strength and toughness by 1 for the rest of the battle. That's also pretty fucking savage. 5 or a 6 is every unit, friend or foe, suffers D3 mortal wounds. So not as bad as a meltdown, but still D3. If you've got 3 or 4 units on there and there's like boom, D3, 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 it's can be pretty hairy. And if you roll a 6, every unit, friend or foe, within 6 inches of the objective suffers 1 mortal wound, and then any surviving unit rolls on the below mutations table and applies this. Fuck, it's a table within a table. Holy shit. Alright, so when the objective explodes, you roll a d6. If you roll a 6, you then take mortal wound on everybody within 6 inches of the objective, and you roll another d6 for anyone that survives. This can give them +1 movement, as well as advantage in charge rolls. It can give them +1 to their attacks characteristic, and it can give them reroll failed wound rolls. Interesting thing about this to note is that most of the time these aren't going to start exploding until turns 3 and 4. So sometimes getting +1 movement at turn 4, like who cares? You're already all the way up in their shit. Or you're far enough away that you don't care. So some of these are kind of irrelevant. But it's, I actually look forward to playing that one. It's a fun mission. Next, let's start smashing through them because I feel like I'm rambling a little bit here. We've got the weapons test. So this is a take and hold. So 1 objective is worth 5, 2 is worth 10, and more is worth 15. And then your secondary that you must choose is the Rattling Gun. Okay, I remember somebody was telling me about this one. I hadn't read it yet, so let's get stuck into it, but it's pretty interesting. So in this mission, you have to choose the Rattling Gun, and at the end of the battle, a player scores 1 victory point for every unsaved wound inflicted on a unit, friend or foe, with the Rattling Gun. So what is the Rattling Gun? At the beginning of the game, your Warlord is given the Rattling Gun, which is a weapon with the following profile. So whoever your Warlord is in your list has to take this gun. And my warlord happens to be a keeper of secrets, so he's going to be running around with a Rattling Gun. And basically, no codex rules or stratagems can be used on this weapon, e.g. rerolls or anything like that. Pretty straightforward. It's a strength 4, -2 AP, 1 damage, 24-inch range gun that's type heavy D6. And it's got a special rule. When firing this gun, after you roll the dice to determine the number of shots it fires, you may roll another dice and add that number of shots. You may do this as many times as you wish until you roll a result as a previous... until you roll a result as the previous dice. I assume they mean as the same as the previous dice. When this occurs, you must roll a d6 and consult the misfire table, resolve the corresponding effect, and then resolve your shooting as normal. These dice cannot be rerolled for any reason. So basically, d6 shots. If you roll a dice, you roll 4, you get 4 shots. But you can choose to roll another dice. And if you roll 3, well, now you got 7 shots. You can roll another dice. If you roll a 1, you got 8 shots. And you roll another dice, you roll a 6, you've got 14 shots. Then you roll another dice and you roll another 6. Well, now you've got 20 shots, but you've now mishapped and you have to roll on that table. So basically, you just keep fucking spamming the shit out of these shots, but once you mishap, you can't shoot again. Well, you can't roll another dice and add it to your number of shots. So this thing's going to be pretty fucking savage. I can see this thing going absolutely ham. It is only strength 4, -2, and 1 damage, so it's not an amazing weapon, but it's going to fucking put out a lot of shots. And interestingly, things like elite armies will shrug this off, like toughness 5 armies and stuff like that. And in order to get victory points, you have to do unsaved wounds. So that's interesting. The other interesting thing is that it has to go on your warlord. So something like, if you're like a guard army and you've got like a little commander and he's your warlord, because you have to have a warlord, that army's going to fucking struggle, because that commander isn't going to he's not going to be running around doing wounds to people. And if he does come out, he's very easy to kill. And as soon as he dies, if they kill your warlord turn 1 or 2, your ability to score victory points is in the loop. So that's interesting. The Rattling Gun mishap table is basically if you've rolled multiples, subsequent numbers on that dice roll, you then have to roll on this chart. Basically, a 1 is a minor explosion, the bearer suffers D3 mortal wounds, and no shots are resolved. So if you've just rolled up, like I said, and you've got 20 shots, but then on your mishap you roll a 1, you don't get to make those 20 shots. That's rough. Uncontrollable fire. So if you roll a 2, all shots are resolved against the nearest unit, friend or foe. So if you're in your backfield, you're going to blow your own shit up. If you roll a 3, it doesn't fire at all. If you roll a 4, all the shots are resolved at strength 2. If you roll a 5, they're done at AP 0. And if you roll a 6, all of them are resolved at strength 5 AP 2. Okay. So rolling a mishap on that gun is actually pretty bad, because a lot of these you just don't get to shoot, or you don't get to, you go down to strength 2, so you're wounding Marines on 6s and then they're getting saves. Like, a lot of these really nerf it, and the goal of this is to try and do unsaved wounds to people in order to get the victory points. So you probably only want to roll like twice, maybe 3 times if you're feeling spicy. You don't want to risk it, because if you roll on this chart, you've only got a sort of a 1 in 6 chance of having a relatively useful gun. And resolving them against yourself isn't too bad, because you would then, you'd still get the points, the victory points. And who cares if you kill your own shit? If you kill your own shit, you get victory points. You do it every day. It's the weird version of Vanguard Strike, where the diagonals, and it's 5 objectives. Next, we've got the Warpstone Coffers. So this is take and hold, so it's hold 1 for 5 points, 2 for 10, 3 for 15. And this progressive one is each turn a unit from your army successfully completes the following action, you score 3 victory points. Any character from your army may attempt this action, at the end of your movement phase if it's within range of an objective marker, and no enemy models are within range. Yeah. The action is completed at the end of your turn. For each character that did so, roll on the Consume Warpstone table and apply the effect. You may not perform this action more than once with the character on the same objective, and each objective can only be consumed by one character per turn. This action can be performed by multiple characters within the same turn. Okay, so you can move two characters out onto two objectives and consume both of them, but once one has been consumed, it's done, and you can't put two on the one and both consume it. So that's how that one works. Oh shit! Sorry. Yeah. So that's how that works, and now we go down to the Consume Warpstone table. Oh god, they've got a Warpstone token table for thick characters. Fucking hell. Oh, I like it. So there's two separate tables, one for if your character has 1 to 9 wounds, and one if they have 10 plus wounds. Now I assume they're saying a wounds characteristic of 1 to 9 and a wounds characteristic of 10 plus, not a current wound value. So for example, Keeper of Secret's got 16 wounds. If you knock that cunt down and he's only got 8 wounds left, I assume he would still roll on the big table. But that might be worth clarifying. Anyway, so if you roll a 1, your character doesn't feel so good, he suffers D3 mortal wounds, and inflict D6 mortal wounds on the nearest enemy unit, friend or foe. Fuck, okay, so you do D3 wounds to yourself, or D6 to the nearest enemy unit, the nearest unit, friend or foe. So probably not so bad if you're deep in the enemy lines. You can charge something in, consume it, and then throw up on them. Pretty cool. 2 to 3 is at the end of your command phases. The character regains 1 wound lost earlier in the battle. So Warpstone regeneration. Warpstone miasma is enemy units suffer neg1 to hit when versing that target. Wow, if I get that on a keeper that's also neg1 to wound from range attacks, it'll be neg1 to hit and neg1 to wound. That's spicy. And then 6 is +1 strength, +1 toughness, and +1 attack for the rest of the battle. That's pretty cool. Now on thick boys, if you're a big boy, you don't get to swallow it and throw it up on them. If you roll a 1, you just suffer D3 mortal wounds. Fucking hell. I guess this is to stop knights who are characters from just being like barely unscathed. Oh no's disaster. So you suffer D3 mortal wounds. Then you got Pungent Aura. For the rest of the game, at the start of the friendly command phase, you suffer 1 mortal wound. For the rest of the game, all attacks made by this model in melee have an additional neg1 AP. Okay. 4 to 5, for the rest of the battle, this model subtracts 3 from their movement value. For the rest of the battle, the model adds 1 to their toughness characteristic. Okay, so it makes you slow but tough. And then if you roll a 6, the character gains the following ability and replaces any and all abilities that trigger on the death of the character. Okay. So I guess that's things like Celestine or Gilliman, their ability to die and get back up. I assume that's what they're referring to here. So it's too horrible to die. The first time this model's wounds drop to 0. At the end of that phase, roll a d6 and a 4+, they return to the battlefield with d6 wounds remaining. Place the character as close as possible to former location more than 3 inches away. Wow, that's really good on some things. That's amazing. Yeah, so that's the idea with that one. And objective-wise, there's 6. So yeah, basically that one you just want to get onto objectives with characters, consume the Warpstone, and then pray to the gods of dice that you don't get fucked. Interesting. That one's a more standard. It's a little bit spicy, but a more standard sort of mission. Next one is Bomb Rats. So it's a take and hold, so 5 for 1, 10 for 2, 15 for more. And your custom mission here that everybody must use is at the end of the battle, score victory points depending on which of the following you achieved during the battle. So score 4 victory points for each objective you destroy on your deployment line. Score 8 for each objective you destroy on the center line, and 12 for each objective you destroy in your opponent's deployment line. So you can destroy objectives. At the beginning of your game, your army gains a single demolition team model with the below data sheet. Your demolition team can perform the following action. This unit can start to perform this action at the end of your movement phase if it's within range of an objective. This action is completed at the end of your player turn. If it is successfully completed, the objective is removed from the battlefield, and each unit, friend or foe within 6 inches of it, suffers D3 mortal wounds. The first time you complete this action, the demolition team model is reduced to 3 wounds if it is more at the time of completion. If it performs this action a second time, the demolition model is removed as a casualty. Okay, so you've got one model that gets to run around and blow shit up. He can only do it twice. And if you do it to your own line, it's worth 4 points. If you do it to the middle, it's worth 8. If you do it to your opponents, it's worth 12. So realistically, you want to try and get either one in yours and one in theirs, or 2 in the middle. We'll get you 15. And Bomb Rats demolition team. So let's see, we've got a movement of 9, weapon skill 3, strength 2, toughness 3, 6 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 10. And then it's got a melee attack, which is strength 10, neg 4, d3 plus 3 damage. And successfully hits inflict a mortal wound on the bearer. Okay, so it's basically, it's in combat, it does mortal wound to itself, but it's a strength 10, neg 4, d3 plus 3 damage, so it's actually savage in combat. It's only 3 attacks though, so it's probably not too bad. So it's got an ability, hard to hit, so it's really small on the screen. Hard to hit, small size of this bomb map makes it difficult to land a blow. It's got a 4-up invulnerable save. In addition, the model cannot be targeted by any range attacks while it is within 3 inches of a friendly unit of any size. And it's got skitter. Each time this unit makes a normal move, advances, fall back, or makes a charge move, until the end of the move is finished, models in this unit can move horizontally through models and terrain features as if they're not there. Okay, so it's effectively got fly and a sort of character prevention. But it does say it doesn't specify whether or not it's the closest. So if you've got a unit and it's sitting in front, but it's within 3 inches of that unit, they can't target your bomb rats. Interestingly, you only get one of them, and it has no protection from combat. So people with like solitaires or really fast combat might be able to slingshot in and kill your bomb rats early. And if they do that, you're not going to get any points out of the secondary. So in those games, if you're versing a combat army that you're worried is going to be able to take out your bomb rat, maybe just quickly run out and blow up one of your own objectives, and then hope that you get another turn and maybe blow up a middle one. Yeah, that'll be an interesting mission. I think that one's kind of dumb. To be honest, it's I feel like that heavily favours some armies and is devastating to others. So that's slightly concerning. That looks like the last mission. Yep, we're at the bottom of the PDF, so that's all of them. So there's a few of those missions that I actually quite like. There's a few of them, like this bomb rat ones, that I think is a bit silly. But the one thing that I do think is slightly concerning is that because these secondaries are mandatory, it really heavily favours some armies and it crushes others. Like Sisters of Battle, for example, they love this because they don't have a ton of good secondaries available to them, and they don't have any codex specific ones or anything like that. But despite that, they're a really powerful army. So we've just given a really powerful army an extra buff because now they have to take this one. So then from there they just take like engage on all fronts and maybe scramblers or maybe banners or maybe kill more or whatever. They take 2 of their better options and then their third one is just an auto pick. Whereas something like Dark Angels, who have several good options, or Blood Angels have several good options, or Necrons have several good options, you know, even just regular vanilla Marines and Deathwatch. So all of these new codexes, they all have so many good secondaries. One of their main strengths is the fact that they are going to max out all 3 of their secondaries. Whereas armies like mine, for example, where I'm running Chaos, we don't have that. So some would argue that it's a good balancing, because it brings the other factions that haven't got their codex secondaries yet into the fold by giving us something and making them take something that they might not want to take. But the problem, I think, is that it takes existing armies that are really, really powerful, like Sisters of Battle and like Harlequins, for example, doing really, really well, and it just makes them that much better. And also, quite a few of these seem to heavily favour combat armies, like the Bomb Rat one. Like if you've got the ability to just go in and kill their Bomb Rat, like they're fucked. The same goes for the one where you've got the character with the Dagger gun. Like if you're able to go, okay, cool, it's a warlord with a gun, so he's not easy to target with shooting. If you're up against a Tau gun line, they're never going to shoot that warlord. So that warlord could just sit there and shoot your own guys all game and rack up points. But if you're up against a combat army who's able to get in there and actually kill that character, they can take your ability to score points away like that. So I feel it heavily favours combat armies, and it also heavily favours armies that don't have a lot of good secondaries. Which is just, it's going to do an interesting little bit of a warp on the meta, I think. But it does add a ton of flavour to the event, and it will make the event memorable. It's not just going to be another one where we're playing the same missions that we played at every other event and the same staleness. It's going to be a really fresh and fun, interesting time. I would have liked to have seen these secondaries as an optional thing. Like maybe it's something that you don't have to take, but that way it gives armies the ability to take them, but it doesn't force other armies to. So things like, it makes your Chaos Space Marines and stuff better, and your, you know, all your various factions that don't have good secondaries, it makes them better, but it doesn't make your Dark Angels worse. You know, that, I feel like that would have been a little bit better, but I understand they're trying to force you to engage in the narrative, and they're trying to force you to have a little bit more fun and not take it so seriously, and I respect that. That's the type of event that Ratcon is. It's a little bit less serious, it's a lot more fun, a lot more silly, and I believe they've commissioned up little Bomb Rat models, so everyone who attends the event gets a Bomb Rat that you can use to play your mission. Last year they had bells, like plague bells, and basically there was like, you place them on an objective and you could ring the bell and then roll random table. So there's some interesting stuff in there, and I'm definitely looking forward to the event. It's going to be a sick fun. There are just a few things that I think that the event could improve on in regards to their player pack going forward, so future years. But yeah, I trust the guys. The TO team are a great bunch of guys, so I'm sure it'll be a fantastic event, and I look forward to it. The next video that I will be posting over in the next couple of days will be a breakdown of the list that I'm running, and basically what my strategies are, how each unit in my list operates. And then after that, I'll be going to the event and I'll be giving you guys updates throughout the day, and also post-event interviews with the winner, hopefully, and discussing their list and talking to the TOs about how they feel the event went and those sorts of things. So yeah, with that, I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll catch you guys at the next one. Cheers.
Warhammer for the blood god.